All right. You might have noticed some things have changed. I actually did my hair this morning. I know that might be kind of a paradigm shift for some of you. I did, I not only did I get out of the shower, I went like this, and I even put just a little gel in it. You don't want to overdo it. That would be obvious, but just like a little product and then kind of off in that direction, right? I just wanted to bring it up because I knew somebody else was going to mention it. Or like I knew somebody else was going to come along and say, well, something's different and we all know what it is. So I just wanted to, I wanted to get ahead of it. I didn't want to let that come between us and this important topic that we're about to discuss here, because I have obviously been away for a couple days. I went to TwitchCon in Rotterdam, right? I try to go to both TwitchCons each year. Good opportunity to see friends, see you people that watch the streams. You people, hi. And that worked, but I'm not able to record during those times, very busy days and so on and so forth. And there was something important that happened, right? I hosted a live watch along of the Champions League final with my friends Nim, a guy named Esfand, and that was a lot of fun from a bar in Rotterdam. But I haven't had the chance to sit down and talk to you guys about the game itself. And that's enough grandstanding, because holy shit. Holy shit. 5-0. I'm pretty sure. I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure it's the biggest win in the history of the Champions League final. Right? Like just a record-setting victory. And I had one thing, just kind of one thing echoing in my mind the entire time it was happening. I told you so. I told you. I told you again and again. Inter is bad. I mean, relatively, right? Obviously, they're really good compared to a lot of Italian teams. They've kind of fumbled the league against Napoli this year. But compared to the best teams in Europe, Inter is bad. And what this result proved to me is that they did kind of. I mean, it's not like they didn't deserve to be there. Anybody that beats the teams in order to get there deserves to be there. I'm not one of those people that's going to come up and say, this is ridiculous that they made it. No, it's not. If you wanted to make it instead of them, beat them. But they did kind of shithouse their way there. They were not more talented than Barcelona, right? They backed their way into this final in dramatic fashion, obviously, but they weren't that good. And the only argument that I could come up with, right, and when we discussed other results that Inter had been able to pull off, right, was that they were sharp. They were sharper mentally. They were winning in the margins. They weren't winning with overwhelming quality compared to a team like Barcelona. They were just more locked in. They were more in sync. Their tactical plan was better, right? The other team was whack. They were on fire. That completely fell apart in this final. If that had been their superpower up to this point, right? If Inter's superpower had been the old guys at the YMCA that set great screens and make great cuts and make all their layups and open jump shots, right, in basketball, then they didn't do any of that in this final. I said 11 minutes into this game that it was over if they kept playing defense like they did on that opening goal, and they kept playing defense like they did on that opening goal. I don't know what the hell was going on with them. Because if PSG won this 1 or 2-0, I would have probably been saying most of the things I said at the beginning, but this was embarrassing because Inter didn't even play as well as they did in the previous rounds. Not only was Inter worse, they had made up for that by being sharper mentally. They were less sharp than PSG. PSG they're a bottle factory. They lose these games. There was a real opportunity, right? If they were able to show up, Inter that is, and force PSG to think and force them to work and break a block down, that they could add to the nerves, start to create chances on set pieces, start to play off Thuram or whatever the hell they wanted to do in order to get a ball in the back of the net the way they did against Barcelona. But they didn't create any nerves at all for PSG. Because PSG scored, PSG walked the ball into the back of the net. It was like Pep Guardiola's wet dream, putting the ball in the back of the net 11 minutes in. Then they score again, right? And even though it was a giant deflection, Inter was under siege. They looked like, there are certain times when you're watching a team's defense, right? They looked like they were on ice without ice skates. They were all out of position. They didn't know what was going on. Guys were open all over the place. And they refused in a lot of cases to just hoof the ball long as well. PSG, I will give them a ton of credit for this. And I'm a full disclosure here, I am happy for them. Right? If they win it again, I won't be. But if you've never won it before, it's hard for me to hate you that much. You know what I mean? Like now you can look at PSG and go, oh, if they come back and win it again, they're a big bully oil club. And they are a big bully oil club. But they'd also bottled a lot. And, their fans are very passionate, right? There is some happiness that can be gleaned from them winning it for the first time. I'm happy to see somebody like Ousmane Dembele be the best player, arguably the best player on a team that goes and wins something like this. Right? I feel like after the career that he's had and the struggles that he's gone through, that's great. That's great for him. Okay, but PSG gets the most credit for the way they set up. Now, Enrique, the coach, beast. Obviously, he had his own personal story. His daughter, I think, died of cancer, but I know she definitely died. And so the PSG fans honored her with kind of a tifo thing, and he was able to win one. I don't want to say for her because I don't want to speak for Luis Enrique, right? But like to honor her memory or to get that kind of special moment of happiness in what has been obviously a tumultuous time for him. But the way he set up his team. Sorry, I keep trying to give credit for PSG doing something, and I haven't actually gotten there because I keep getting distracted, but we're going to lock in. They pressed their butt off. They came out in this game and they said, we are way better. The way they played this match is the way that Manchester City would go out on the field in their prime, not the one that you saw this past year, but like 3 years ago, Manchester City would have set up against Burnley. That's the way they played this game. They pressed as high as humanly possible. They were chomping at the bit to get after Inter, and Inter never felt comfortable handling it. They tried. I mean, you always try. You always try, like at this level of professionalism, let's be honest. Let's call a spade here. You try to look cool like you are handling it well, but they weren't. Right? They're trying to make those short little passes, but they didn't really know where to go with the ball. The tactic just wasn't there. They didn't have a plan to be able to break that kind of press. They didn't expect PSG to come out that aggressive. It caught them by surprise. And that's how PSG ended up with a 2-goal lead going into the half that could have been 4. They had other chances to score. I don't blame Jan Sommer at all for any of this, by the way. All right, in the second half, that poor guy was hung out to dry like a piece of laundry. Right? He was terrible. Like there was nothing he could do at that point in the game. I did expect a response from Inter. More than we got. But the honest truth of this game is PSG was better and they played a really good game. And Inter was worse and they played a really bad game. And that's how you end up with a 5-0. So where are these teams going from here? PSG has a chance to build a dynasty. Like, I'm happy for them now. Totally could hate them in a couple of years. Like full-blown hatred, the type of hatred that you have for, the teams that always win things. Like, oh, Real Madrid wins again. Oh, that's annoying, That's where PSG might be headed. Because the monkey's off the back now. There is no more bottle. There is no more can they actually do it. There is no more of that stress. And for some teams, that can be the end of the run. Because the driving factor was, this stress that you'd had, that you needed to go all of the way, and that you hadn't done it before, and your window is closing. For PSG, that's not what's happening. Their window was supposed to have closed when Mbappe left, and now all of a sudden they went and won the whole thing. Which is objectively hilarious, by the way. Now Mbappe still has no Champions Leagues, even though he's at Real, and all of his former teammates at PSG, or all the ones that are still there, they have a Champions League. Funny how the world works, right? Also proves that, you'd rather build a team than try and build around one person. I think that we've proved that conclusively with the way that PSG was able to put a really good team together that played super well together and then they were one of the best teams, if not the best team in Europe the entire year. They struggled a little bit early in the Champions League stage, but they didn't lose a game in the French league until they got to the Champions League semifinals, I think, and then they basically already clinched the league. And then they ended up losing a couple games in the French league, but they were steamrolling everybody. And when the rubber hit the road in the Champions League, they started steamrolling people again. And obviously, Ousmane Dembele was amazing. So what I think we have here is a separate situation, right? Because now that the monkey's off their back, they have a young team. This is a young team. They got teenagers scoring. They got Bradley Barcola tying people in knots, right? Desiree Doué. They've got dudes. And almost none of them are old, right? Like Inter's old. They got a Serbi back there. And sure, PSG's got Marquinhos. But this is a really young core of a team that has now been shown that they can win a Champions League final with PSG. Because that was the knock, wasn't it? I mean, sure, maybe you'd rather play in a bigger league. But if you can win the biggest trophy in club football while playing for this team, what is the real incentive to leave unless you're going to Trent Alexander-Arnold it? And basically, you always dreamed of playing for Real Madrid, which is apparently some sort of poison that Florentino Perez has. He just goes around. Maybe it's the Ballon d'Or ceremony. Maybe it's like what's the Copa Trophy? The best young player. He just walks around the ceremony dripping this "I want to go to Real Madrid" juice into everybody's drink or something. Sure, that could happen. But a lot of these guys are going to be there for a long time. They're midfield with guys like Neves and Vitinha. Who were outstanding. Right? They're just going to be there for a long time. And while they're there, they might win a few more. I think we're about to enter an era where PSG becomes, at least for a couple of years, a Real Madrid type team. Where even if they don't win it, you think they're going to. Because who's going to beat them now? Real Madrid sputtered a little bit. Barcelona and PSG feel like the two best teams in Europe. I would love to have seen them in the final. But Barcelona kind of messed that up because they were young and not focused. PSG was young and focused. PSG had a hard road into that final. And they managed to handle it, and they managed to win. So emotionally, how do you process a 5-0? Well, for Inter, this is brutal. Because it's not like Inter's in that position. They've been to 2 finals in 3 years, which is kind of insane considering Inter's not really been thought of as like one of the best, the preeminent team in Europe over that stretch, but they have made 2 finals in 3 years. So something is going right. You can be happy about that because every team except for PSG would have wanted to be in your position. But 5-0 really highlights all of the issues that they have, which is that the team 1 through 11 is just not talented enough. And I don't know if there's the money, right, playing in Serie A in order to change that, unless you have an oil owner that's able to basically max out what you spend every year under the financial rules. And maybe cook you up with a few nice, juicy, oil-slicked sponsorships in order to boost that potential revenue and then potential spend, right? Don't do it too much because then you get caught like Manchester City, which when the hell is that stuff dropping, by the way? I thought that was dropping in March, but that seems like a topic for a different video. I don't know where Inter goes from here. They got to try and reconquer the league first, because losing the league to McTominay-led Napoli is probably not a good idea to keep doing. But this is not a team that is as young. And I love Denzel Dumfries in particular. They've got some guys. But I think Inter has been shown that they need to take a full step in order to actually win this thing. I don't know where that full step's going to come from. A lot can happen in a year. And now, at this point, you'd be kind of happy to see Inter win it again, which would have felt weird 20 years ago, right? But at least according to my vague understanding of football history as an American who didn't grow up surrounded by it, PSG is the team. They are now the team. And Inter choked. I think it's entirely fair to say Inter choked and bottled in this, so I'm just going to throw... They did. They choked. They were terrible. Like, objectively awful.